Okay, hello, dear viewers. Welcome back. Today I'm going to be talking about Death, Love, Doom as I ran it as a one shot, one of the first of the Halloween one shots I was going to do this year. And I wanted to talk about the module. But before I get into that, I suffered some strange injury and I've been in pain all day. And Because of it, I actually had to cancel an Alien RPG one shot I was going to run today and talk about later. Um, I'll reschedule that for November because Alien RPG from Free League is a good game and it's a fun sci-fi horror one shot game, and I really want to show you guys that, and it's definitely worth picking up and playing. But other than that, I'm doing good. Just needed a bunch of naproxen, almost 100 milligrams, and keep staying off my foot. That's all I really need, thankfully. But let's not talk about my physical ailments. Let's talk about Death, Love, Doom by James Edward Raggi IV. This is originally published in 2012. You got art by Kelvin Green, the cartography by Jess Gordon, and the layout. Uh, Good book, a good layout. It's just a fun read, and I think it's a great example of what you can do with a tabletop RPG and horror. I'm I actually struggled to figure out what to say about this, not because it's a bad module, but because it's just so good, and people have already kind of talked about it. They have their own opinions, but so hopefully my quick overview here will be will be informative and give you an idea of what to expect when you pick this up because you should. Um, okay, so basically at its core, it is a haunted house adventure, but it's a lot more. Your players will be exploring a house, the grounds surrounding this house, collecting loot, and encountering all kinds of nasty, gross, horrific things. There will be some spoilers in this review, I should mention, but I'm going to try really hard to avoid it because this module works best if you experience it firsthand without knowing anything about it. Um, but yeah, it's so much more than just a haunted house. It's not like oh, I think it's called the Sinister Secrets of Saltmarsh. That's like this old school module that's kind of like a haunted mansion, but there's like pirates, I think, if I remember correctly. And there's nothing creepy about that module, as I remember. It's just oh, you encounter some pirates and maybe a little bit of undead or something. But it's to me that's not a haunted house. That's just some monsters, and the undead have been abused in RPGs anyway. Death Love Doom does it right. There is something horribly evil inside this place, and your players unfortunately stumble in it. I did a setup where it was very because it was a one shot. I just very much railroaded. Hey, you're hired to go into this place to find a family member, the father, the patriarch, and retrieve a necklace. Okay, but the setup, as presented in the book, is more rumors of this patriarch and his family have disappeared, or at least he hasn't been seen in a couple of days. People think there's something wrong, and so there's thieves thinking about descending upon this very wealthy manor and pick it clean, and your players maybe they're thieves as well, or maybe they want to try to stop the thieves. And then there's some rumors that the players can pick up if they ask the right questions while hanging out at a bar, kind of thing. And then they show up at the haunted house, and things go sideways at some point. It's kind of like a slow build. The backstory is really cool. It's interesting. So you have this very wealthy man obtains a necklace to give to his wife out of guilt. He's a workaholic, but also he's fallen in love with the family's nanny, and he feels guilty about it. She's pregnant with their fifth child, and he buys this necklace for her. The problem is the necklace that he picked up is the necklace of the sleepless queen. And once a gift giver gives this to the person he or she loves, it activates the creature inside, who essentially mutilates the two and those that they love, leaving them alive but in extreme pain. This right here is where, you know, you need to have players who are not going to be squeamish, because the encounters in this uh, module are pretty horrific. You're going to be dealing with children, um, who've been affected by this necklace, this demonic thing. Um, the encounters are essentially two types. Oh, I'm going to deem them passive and active. The passive ones are encounters with dead servants. You know, players come upon a scene. The servants are dead because the patriarch didn't love them, so the creature killed them. Right, but the active encounters are with the family members, and they're still alive. Okay. Um, the module really uses both encounters very effectively, um, especially if your players are exploring the estate. They'll run into a lot of the passive encounters first, and that really just sort of sets the tone that something really bad happened, and they need to be on their guard. And then, of course, once they get inside the estate home, they they encounter the more active encounters, and their things get ramped up. Um, the living these active encounters will provide some information or something horrific to contend with, essentially like a trap, a magical trap. Some of the encounters are actually moving. When the beginning of the game masters to roll for the location of some of these uh, encounters, these individuals, and they can move. I When I was running it, they were moving. A couple of them were anyway, and I was sort of behind the scenes rolling on my own little chart where they were going. Um, the players ended up encountering two of the four, but yeah, that's what these active encounters do. They actually ramp up what's going on, further cluing the players in that something's not right. Something absolutely horrific, including Agatha Foxlow. She's particularly disturbing, but she's actually an important one because she is the first one to hint at the monster, what the monster is. And when I first read this module, I thought to myself, this encounter seems to happen too soon. That was my initial gut reaction. But then actually playing it last weekend, I realized it's actually perfectly placed. I mean, the pacing of this horror module is really good. It's very good. Um, I was happy to be wrong after playing it. Okay, so this is the only image of the monster I'm going to show you because it's not really giving away anything. But this is what comes out of the necklace once the individual gives the necklace as a gift. The thing and two drones come out and they inhabit three of the family members. Um, and they start doing what they're doing. Okay. The thing is pretty pretty tough. It has a devastating polymorph attack where it does, typical 1d8 damage when it strikes. But at the beginning of combat, you're to ask each player to provide a number 1 through 8. And if the creature strikes that player's character and when rolling for damage, rolls that number, rather than taking damage, the polymorph attack is triggered, and the demon creature here, the thing, remakes them, and they're dead. They're gone. They're out of the game. They have been mutilated. Um, uh, One of the players kept saying at the live play, the actual play, he's like, "When your number's up, you're done." My number was up. It's a really effective tool to help ramp up tension with your players. What I did was actually ask at the very beginning of the session before they even knew what was coming, what to choose a number, and I think I would recommend doing that because it puts something in the back of their mind that this number is important. Why is important? They don't know. And then when I started rolling damage, I started asking, "Hey, what was your number again?" And then all of a sudden they're like, "Uh oh, this is not good." And the horror got ramped up. It was really effective. I strongly recommend if you run this adventure, and you should ask for that number first. Um, Real quick, the treasure is just immense. I have, if anyone survives, if this is not done as a one shot but part of a campaign, anyone who survives is probably guaranteed to gain a level, depending on what level they are. This guy is wealthy. There is a ton of treasure in this estate, and I have to say it is a testament to James Radji's understanding of the psychology of players, and it's an example of his understanding of the adventurer that is just pervades all of Lamentations of the Flame Princess's publications. Um, yeah, do not feel bad exploiting your player's greed. I was pretty, I don't want to say shocked, but pleasantly surprised at how one player out of the three surviving at this one point of last week's game, two are contending with the monster, and he ignores them, continues to ransack the place, and then escapes out the back. Yeah, it was great. It was great, and it's a great way to have the players like they see this horrific thing, and they start thinking like, wow, maybe we should get out of here. But then they find something that's worth like 4,000 silver pieces, and they're like, well, let's go to the next room. Let's just see what's in the next room. It's it's quite genius actually. Okay, so running this adventure, I have a couple things I'd like to point out. I didn't use any of Kelvin Green's character art in this presentation, as I said, because I don't want to give away too much. And this adventure, I think, is very effective if you use Theater of the Mind and then show the image. Okay, the Theater of the Mind, I think, puts something pretty graphic in someone's head, but then Kelvin Green's art, I mean, if you're familiar with it, it kind of softens the blow. I don't want to say he's a cartoonist because he's not really, but it's not horribly like lifelike or realistic, right? It's like line art, and it's almost kind of like almost got like a whimsical aspect to it. It's great. I love it, and it's perfect for this because good horror will also have those lighter moments, and I think when you describe what Agatha Foxlow looks like, and then you show the image, it solidifies what's in their mind, but it's also not so realistic that you're going to have players getting up from the table in disgust or whatever. There's a essay in the beginning of this book, this module, about how James recommends you run this, and it's the essay alone is worth the price of admission because it's got some great advice for running horror. He recommends when you are describing the scene, be as dispassionate as possible. I think he's spot on here. A matter of fact presentation helps ramp up the horror because the horror is sitting almost comfortably among the mundane. Um, if you're acting like Vincent Price, it's just going to come off as goofy, and it's not going to really resonate with the players. But if it's just sort of like this very almost scientific, investigative, this is what you see. It's up to the players then to translate that into an emotion inside their mind, and you're not telling them this is scary. No, you're like, no, there's blood everywhere. There's gore dripping from the ceiling. You know, you're not telling them, you're showing them. Um, but he strongly recommends that when the players start interacting with the family, you play it up because um, they are victims here. They're not the monsters, even though I don't want to give anything away. Some of the encounters are incredibly dangerous. So um, it's it's a brilliant essay on horror gaming, and I think everyone should read it. It's fantastic. Um, so like I said at the beginning of this presentation, I was trying to figure out how to talk about this because this is not like any module I've ever really ran, and it really got me thinking about why it works so well as a horror module. And James likes to write these intros, these forewords, where he gets a little personal, and he's personal in this one too. This was written after apparently a very rather messy divorce, and I put a quote in here because I think it gets at why this module works. I think horror works when it's grounded in reality. There's a clear connection to it, and it doesn't have to necessarily be physical reality. I think it's psychological reality. It makes it personal, and that's where the horror begins. Like if in some weird way you can understand why the horror is happening, and maybe even see a bit of yourself in the horror, it's going to be all the more horrifying because it could be you, you know. Um, and I think one of the I bring up Jason Voorhees and Freddy Krueger, part three, part seven, because the first Friday the 13th movie I really like, the very first one, because there's something crazy going on, so and you start learning about it, and it's pretty horrific. And then of course Jason is killing teenagers at Camp Crystal Lake. Same thing with Freddy Krueger. Like something's wrong, right? And you start to kind of piece it together. But once you get into the sequels and it's just a bloodbath and nothing else, it's not really horrific. It might be gruesome. It might give you a couple jump scares, but it's not horrific. It's not something that's settled in the back of your mind. Um, and that to me is a hallmark of a good horror movie. When the lights go out, I'm done watching the movie, the lights go out, and I have trouble sleeping for a couple days because I'm thinking about it. And not for nothing, after last week's session, we got done at midnight my time. I said my goodbyes. I was the only one up in my house, so I started turning off the lights. I get a drink of water, get ready for bed. Lights are out, and I start moving through the dark. And I started thinking about this module, and I was kind of up for a little bit. I was like, this was really effective. This was a really horrific sort of experience, and I think the personal is one of the reasons why this works so well. So the $64,000 question that I always ask is, should you buy this game? Should you buy this module? And the answer is a resounding fuck yes. Um, it's only $5 for the PDF on drive-through. I'd pay 10. I mean, this is really good. I had such a fun time running it. It's a great primer on how to be horrific and running horror games. Um, if you want a hard copy, unfortunately, I think the only way to find a hard copy now is through the Adventure Anthology Death. That is still available, I believe, at the U.S. store at the website, LOTFP website. It's about €30, but you're getting three other adventures as well, which are pretty good too. One of them I was hemming and hawing about playing as well for my Lamentations one shot this year, and that was Tales of the Scarecrow. Um, so t- totally worth the price of admission. I think I've said that twice already. But anyway, it's totally worth it. I love this game. I love this module. I'll be running it again, I'm sure, and I hope you pick it up and have as much fun, if not more. So with that said, if you like this video, please hit like, subscribe, bell icon, the blah blah blah. Everyone says that, right? And stay tuned. I'm still running games for Lamentations of Elemental Evil. I'm still going to be doing my deep dive with the core rulebook, and there will be an Alien RPG game and review soon. So thanks for your patience, and thanks for watching.